I love that. Yeah, that's cool.
And just, and it's not fluff. It's just letting people know who you are. And I cannot tell you how many people relate to you when you talk about, when you were young, that you've been flying since you were 14, and they automatically assume you're a pilot, that you're flying for a commercial. No, you've never. It's a recreational pilot.
Never wanted to do it a business because I never wanted to spoil it and have to be on a work schedule.
Exactly. And then another thing is when people want to know how did you guys, when they find out we work together and we had the radio show together, they want to know, well, how did you two meet? And then you just, in a phone booth. And they look at you like, in a phone booth? A lot of the youngsters don't even know what a phone booth is.
They haven't got a clue.
But it starts a story, and then it just lets you really have fun and share some fun things, and and go on and share how you trap. I think you always say, I trapped her in a phone booth, is what you say, and
I wouldn't let you out until you had to dance with me.
And that was the way Richard networked with me. And that was at a bar. So yes, you can network anywhere. And but we never really went out for a while. We just started having a conversation and just talked and smiled and and that type of thing, and started we had a friendship.
Yes, we did.
We had a friendship, and that's what led us to starting the business and dating, and then eventually getting married and etc. But that's where almost everything has to start with that friendship.
Absolutely true.
And that's what.
And business relationships are right in there as a prime part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to know people's stories. Like we were talking this morning with Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Brian. And, he told us about his story, and I won't go into it because he hadn't given me permission to,
Mm-hmm.
but, I just enjoyed learning about him. I enjoyed seeing the passion that was coming out of him. I enjoyed seeing the sparkle in his eyes when he was talking about everything he did to get where he was. It's just amazing when people trust you enough to
mm-hmm.
open up and allow themselves to be vulnerable, which they're really not, but that's just the word we use.
And another great thing about networking when you're meeting people and getting to know them, it's always fun to introduce them to others that that you think would be a good contact for them, or, possibly, oh gosh, you need to get together. He had given me a name that definitely he wants me to connect with over in the Orlando area. And then, and today listening to him sharing with what he wants to know, I could think of some people I really definitely want to connect with him. In fact, one of our clients, a new client of ours, she, in the arena that she's in, right away I thought of the people that I want to connect her with, and actually contacted someone. So I would love to introduce you to someone. That's what excites me when I get to know people. When you go with the expectation of just building a relationship, you don't get disappointed if there's no business done between you two. It may not always be that way. It could be eventually, maybe you will do business with each other, but in the beginning you're looking at how I can help you. How can I best serve you? What is it, what type of businesses would you like to be introduced to? Or is there someone in the area that you might like to meet me? Perhaps I know them. And even sitting there today when we were networking and having our one-on-one, another individual walked in that we know as well. He had been to the networking event that we were at prior, and he sat in the restaurant there, and we brought him over and introduced him to Brian and connected them. And they're both in the financial industry, so a great connection. You never know, But we ended up actually getting our breakfast paid for. So, Imran, if you're listening, this is going to be, we have a pay it forward, but we definitely want to thank you for breakfast. I haven't done my shout out on Facebook to you yet, but that's just how the kind of relationships we built, because he and I are ambassadors in the chamber. We're friends. And
if you need any financial services folks out there, call Imran.
That's right. So Imran Muhammad. And it's so fun to really know that you're helping people and you've built those friendships and relationships. You never know where you are. You might meet somebody. It's kind of fun.
It's always fun. Nobody's the same. Nobody's got the same story. It's just so cool to meet people and listen to their story and watch their passion pour out of them when they get to talk about what they love to do.
Okay, how can you see that or sense that in social media or social networks?
Well, I think you can sense it in two ways. The first way is, are there passionate words in their post? Or is this just a business post? Are they talking about what they love to do? Are they talking about flying? In my thing, I have a page, Flying Above Marketing. That's what the whole thing's about. And I've got part of me in there because I love to fly. And so I'm flying above marketing, taking a look at that. And so you kind of gain these pieces of the puzzle going along. You pick up these little pebbles along the way, and pretty soon you got a pretty good sandhill, and you're beginning to know somebody. And as that progresses, then maybe you want to flavor some of their work. Or maybe you know somebody that really needs their services or products. And you just allow it to happen naturally. Not force it. Just let it organically grow. And I think that is the essence of really getting to know somebody. Because you can't just pretend you're a psychiatrist or psychologist, whichever one it is, and think you're just going to pull it all out of them immediately. It's not going to happen. Because you have to have a mutual relationship.
Mm-hmm. Very well said there, Richard. And what about those of us, and again, I started sharing that very first networking event that we went to, and I was so uncomfortable not knowing what to say. As I always tease, I kind of hid behind Richard. At that time, he was a little bit larger than me.
Kind of little.
Kind of little.
Hid behind him? No, you were centered behind me.
I was petrified. So with that, for those of us that are not comfortable, networking, what is a good tip that you can provide to them to really, I say have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, but what is a tip that you could provide to somebody when they go to their very first networking event, or they have their first business, they've ventured out, they've joined a chamber, or they've joined an association, or et cetera, and they have to go meet people?
I would look at it from this standpoint. You meet somebody, they say their name and doing all this information transposition, but very few people describe what they do. Most people say, okay, I work for WCN Interactive Inc. Well, what does that tell me?
Yeah.
Not a great big story. And so when they come back with that, it says, oh, that's cool. What do you do? What is your job, or what do you do inside of WCN Interactive Inc.? And you just slowly unwind the thread. Mm-hmm. And just find little bits and little pieces at a time. Don't make it an inquisition. You're not a defense attorney, sitting in here in courtroom where you're trying to play nefarious games and all those things out there. Just go in there and have a talk. And if it naturally ends, it's okay. Let it naturally end. That's the reason you pick up a business card or some type of piece that has their information on it, mm-hmm. and you let it go from there. And then you call them back, you email them, you look them up on social media, and then you continue the conversation from there. That's
very good. And another thing that I always, coming from one that was very nervous going to a networking event and afraid that I might say something silly, or, they might think stupid. You start thinking, you get really nervous, you start putting yourself down, and you start thinking about, I don't know if I really can do this or not. I found that one of the easiest things to do is, is smiling and being open to conversation. Don't just stand in a corner, but stand where, when you see a group of people, and maybe sometimes, and this is hard, I know for some, come up to a conversation. At a networking event, it's okay. And you might just be standing there listening, and then maybe something will draw you into the conversation. But one of the best things to do is when you are coming to any type of a networking event, association or chamber, etc., stand in the front as people come in and almost act like a host or hostess and shake their hands or say, welcome, glad to see you tonight, or something. They'll remember you.
Yes, they will.
They'll definitely remember
takes
you.
Maybe 10 seconds.
And and you start relaxing a little bit too. So because you're saying something, you're meeting people, and they might draw you into a conversation, etc. But I always make sure that one of the things that I do, instead of opening my mouth up and asking what they do, I want them to start talking about themselves. Because people that talk about themselves and you ask questions about them, they're going to remember you too, because they're going to think, wow, they really care about me. So one of the things I always will do is, how do you serve others? Or, and getting them experience saying something different than just saying, what do you do? Or what company do you work for? Or maybe you see something that they're wearing, and you bring that to their attention. Wow, that necklace is beautiful. Did you make that? Especially if it looks, like a handcrafted, something really unique and standing out. So you can come up with some things like that. That really does help you start feeling a little more comfortable in the conversation. And online, I know that there are many people that I hear that are so uncomfortable about really sharing themselves online. They really just want to talk about their business. This is where you just have to really reach out and just connect with people and follow conversations and enter into these conversations. And then when you're at an event and you look at the face, you recognize them, you can feel more comfortable going and up to them and continuing the conversation. If I can add one more thing, what I like to do before I go to a networking event, I like to, and I know there's going to be certain people there, I like to go look at their social profiles and see what's happening. And then when I meet them at these events, I'll say, wow, that was really an exciting basketball game your son had last night, wasn't it? And they're like, how did you know? Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed what you shared on social media last night about about your son making that, the winning score or something along that line. People like, wow, that really makes you stand out.
Oh, it does. Hopefully not in a freaky way. But,
no, I'm a stalker.
Not for you. It would not.
They remember we're connected. Yeah, we're connected. That we're on Facebook.
But the fact that when you phrased it right there, it was very interesting that you were kind of giving them a compliment.
Yeah.
At the same time. Hey, I saw in your post, oh, you're paying attention to me. That, and you tell them what that is. Whoa.
Especially if they just came back from vacation, like, wow, I've done this many times. Wow, I felt like I was on vacation with you. I loved all those photos you shared. Thank you. Just bringing those type of things. That sounds like
one of our chamber presidents.
So, yeah, I did. Actually, the other night, I told her, I says, gosh, what fun, she's always traveling. So, yeah, it really does make them feel good knowing that you are following them, and I'm stalking them, and I'm following them, and I'm keeping up to date with what's happening in their lives. And it just really, again, that's that relationship. And I love that type of getting to know people, and it's helped me in my business as far as getting more comfortable talking to people and then bringing them on as clients, because we're friends first.
Absolutely. It's all right to give people compliments and all of these things, but you need to be receptive of them giving you a compliment back. And you don't need to sit there and say, oh, that's nothing. Well, somebody was trying to compliment you and you just swatted it down. Let them have their compliment. If you feel a little embarrassed or, you don't exactly know what to say, just smile and nod your head. They understand. That shows an emotion that's easily understood, that's easily acknowledged on just being that magnificent person you are.
You have to be able to receive, and that's hard. That is hard.
For a lot of people, it's a lot harder to receive than it is to give.
I know I've done many times, and I was this way. Again, back when I was starting some 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Oh, next year will be 20 years for our business, Richard. Oh, Lordy. When people would say something, I would be that type of person. Oh, really? This old thing? What a nice dress. Oh, this old thing, instead of saying thank you. So I recommend you practice in front of a mirror saying thank you. practice in the mirror asking questions. People, like I said, when